Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Graybeard Garage. My name is Matt, and here we are out at our 2005 Avalanche. In a previous video, you may have seen where I replaced the pan gasket for the transmission. Well, that turned out to be a fail because third and fourth gear were blowing out from when the pan gasket blew out and we were on the road. So, unfortunately, we lost third and fourth gear. So, we need to now pull the transmission that's in here. So that's what we're going to start today. It's already partially in a state of disassembly. The drive shaft is out already. The shift linkage is out already, but you can see how to do that in the other video. I didn't really think you'd want to see a bunch of repetitious stuff for that. So we will get started on pulling this transmission. Alright guys, so we are under the truck, and I'm going to try and show you what we got to do. We have to take this. Where's my finger? There it is. That dust cover off. That gives us access to the flex plate. And then what that will let us do is unbolt the, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if we can get up in there. Hold on. Yeah, so that's right where the starter is. And then this flex plate, it's like a dust shield. When we get in there, then we can get our 3 bolts off of the torque converter. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. That looks like it's a 10 millimeter or maybe an 8 millimeter screw. See if you can get up in there and look. And not really good. But anyway, we got to get that off. So that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, so you can see the screw there. It is a 10 millimeter. So we're going to take that off, and that'll remove the plate. I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but we'll give it a shot. So we'll get our ratchet up in there. Alright, we gotta get an extension. Okay, let's go out here a little bit. Alright, so now with the extension, let's see if we can turn this. There we go. Fairly simple. Get that off. Alright, let me get that out. Alright, so now you can see that's off. Now we just got to get our bolts removed from the torque converter. Alright, so that dust covers off, but I think we got to take this starter down too. And so it's just these 2 bolts here. And then obviously we got to disconnect our battery from there. And so I got to go disconnect the battery under the hood. And then we'll get these lines off the starter. Then we'll pull these 2 bolts, and then the starter will come down, and that should give us full access. So the battery's disconnected. Now we're going to remove these 2 bolts. Let's see if I got the right socket out here for that. Alright guys, so these are a 13 millimeter. So we got our impact. We're going to take those down, and then I got to disconnect the wires off that starter. So impossible to do one-handed, and so I don't really want to have it hit me in the face. So we're going to stop here, pull that down, and show you where we go next. Alright, starter's out of the way. It's right here. That is a 13 and an 8. And there's the 2 wires here that connect the starter. Now, we have full access to the flywheel. Let me see. Here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's back this out. Well, you can't really see that well. Behind all this crap, you can see there's a flywheel there. Let's see if we can go on this side. Now. Alright, so there's our flywheel, or flex plate. So now we got to get in there. There's 3 bolts. We got to spin that around till we find our bolts. And then we unmount that from the flex plate, and then we got only a couple other steps to where we can actually pull this thing down. Alright guys, so I got this thing spun around, and you can see that bolt right there. We have to pull that off. There's 3 of those. So we're going to go ahead and grab this one, and then we'll work on getting the other 2. Okay, so there's our first bolt. Was right. I don't know if that's gonna focus, but this is such a horrible spot to try and record from. There you go. So you can see our first bolt's out. Now we just gotta keep turning the engine until we get to the next one, and then the third one. And again, these are a 15 millimeter. I ended up having to use a 3/8 drive because the 1/2 inch heads were just way too big to turn. Because of all this crap here on the engine, won't let you turn real easy, so I had to use a smaller socket set. So anyway, there's 2 more. We're going to go ahead and get those off, and then we'll show you what we do next. Alright, we got our next bolt in place. We got our ratchet on there. We got to use the pry bar to put into the teeth here to hold the flex plate in place, and then we'll break that bolt loose and take that one out. Okay, so we got our second one out, and these bolts also have the ability to use a 15/16 hex drive into the center of them, which is what I used for this one, and it was a lot easier than the first one. So 15/16 hex drive if you need it, or what did I say, 15 millimeter for the bolt if you're going to use the bolt. Otherwise you can use the hex 15/16. Alright, third and final bolt is down and out. You can see it was up in here. So that's out. Now what we need to do is slide the torque converter back away from the flex plate. And to do that, we'll go under here into this inspection port, and we'll just wiggle that back. Alright, let's see if you guys can see this. So we'll just take this up in here and we'll wiggle this back. And it's not much, but you'll see it does come off. Alright, so once that's separated, and you can see if you look, well, hold on. Alright, so I got my light. Let's see if we can shine that in there. You'll see that it's now off the plate. Yeah, so you can see right there. See, and you just kind of gotta go around and just push it back. Pretty simple part right there. Alright, so now we have the torque converter off the flex plate. Next thing we got to do is get this Y pipe out of the way. I've got these 3 nuts off, but in a previous video, I think I might have shown you, I don't know, I rounded that one over, so I got a solution to get that off. I just got to go get my cool chisels, and we'll get that thing pounded off, and then the Y pipe will be ready to come down. Alright, then the next thing after that is to remove the cross member here. This cross member, we'll take that off, and at that point we're going to bring our transmission jack and try and get it mounted like right up under here. We'll throw a strap over top of it. There is another plug, and there are these lines here that you'll see. These lines go into the transmission. They go to your cooler up front, so we do have to pull those off. And we'll see how that goes. That looks like there's no room, but I might be able to get those from the top, so we'll see what we can do. Alright, so now I'm going to try and get the bolt off of this up here. If I get that loose, then we'll work on getting these lines off. And then there's another electrical connection up in there somewhere. We'll pop that off. And I think we're ready to go. Alright, well, let me go get this other nut off this white pipe. Okay, guys, I got that nut off. That was stuck up there. Now, I rounded it, and then I used a chisel to pound it loose. And it's gnarled up, but the threads are intact inside. And the threads are intact up here. Let's show you that. So our threads are still good there. So now we can bring our Y pipe down once we get our cross member out of the way also. So the next thing I want to work on is, I believe, getting our cross member out, which I showed you earlier is right here. This bad boy here. And what I'm going to do is probably slide a piece of plywood up under here, and we're going to work on getting our jack lifted up to that. And then after that, it's just removing all these bolts, you know, around towards the top. Now, fortunately, this one doesn't have the center bolt at the top of the transmission, so that's good. And then I also need to get the transmission lines off too, which you can see those are right up in there. So I don't know how I'm going to get to those, but I'll figure that out and show you. All right, guys, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this or not, but up in there, there's little clips. If you look at the top one, it's right on the bottom. Those little clips get pulled out. I'm going to try and go back here towards the tail and see if I can reach forward and get to those to pop those clips off. Otherwise, I'm not real sure how I'm going to get them. So I'm going to try that. There's no way I'm going to be able to hold this and show you, but I wanted you to see that those lines are held in with one clip on each one. And I'll show you what the clips look like when I get them out. All right, guys, so you'll see these are now out. They are leaking a little bit, but it's not too bad. So those right there, they're just retained with little clips. I'll show you what those look like. All right, so let's see if we can get that to focus. Those little retainer clips are what hold the transmission line in. You got to be paying attention because they are spring material, so that if you don't pay attention, they'll spring right out and fly. But I mean, you can't get them replaced, so it's not that big a deal, but at the same time, you want to be cognizant that they will fly out. Anyway, now that we've got those disconnected, or all of our electrical disconnected, now we got to take our support member out, or cross member, and then we can start working on the bolts to take the actual transmission off the engine block.